Hey guys, welcome to my channel. So, I'm Daika, and today I wanted to talk about the idea of bonding with someone, but specifically bonding with someone through shared experiences. And I was a little lazy to actually get on a camera and film, so we're gonna be dealing with pain with Daika today. So, in terms of shared experiences and bonding, one of the things that I realized is that this should be fairly self-evident and very obvious. In order to bond with someone, you kind of need some level of shared experiences. And as much as people say that they enjoy getting along with people who are very different from them, yes, that could be true to an extent. And let me explain why here. So there's two types of shared experiences. The first one would be shared experiences in the sense of you grew up the same way in the past, so because you grew up the same way in the past, you guys can relate to each other, whether it would be culturally, whether it be you kind of grew up in very similar households, or if it was because somehow we find a connection through something, whether it be like hobbies or whatever, right? So I would call this past parallels. And your boy just came up with that name right now. And another thing would be literal shared experiences, where they are experiences that you share with the other person. Alright, so literally. So we're gonna call these SE1 and SE2 just for keeping it very, very simple. And one thing that I realized is that if you don't have SE1, having a very vulnerable conversation with someone else can be difficult, and that's kind of like the trend that I see. If you're looking for some kind of relationship where you and the other person are very vulnerable with each other, but vulnerable in the sense that you guys are vulnerable but not broken, right? There's a lot of people who are vulnerable and very broken. But that's not what I'm talking about here. And when it comes to having shared experiences in terms of past parallels, you and the other person can talk about very vulnerable things early on, just because the way you lived in the past has basically given you a way to talk to someone and share an experience with that person, right? And because it's like oh, you did that too? I also did that. And that builds some kind of bond with people, from what I've seen. Now, SC2, when you start that kind of relationship with someone, usually the relationship appears to be very surface level in the beginning, and it's through a lot of shared experiences that you bond with people. But one of the things that I've been dealing with is what happens if you don't have SE1, but you just start off with SE2. There's a lot of people who start off this way, right? But SE1 and SE2 lead to two completely different types of relationships with someone. So if we have something like SE1, right? Call it SE1. It's a lot easier to be introspective with the other person. Like, the relationship has a higher chance of not being surface level, right? Conceptually, it has a higher chance. And SE1, in my experience, has been more ideal, just because it leads to friendships that are a lot more introspective. And SE2 leads to relationships where you're just, in the beginning at least, you're looking for people to just hang out with, right? You're just looking for something surface level. So if you're the type of person where you gravitate towards introspective relationships, where those are your primary goals when it comes to friendships, you're not going to be that inclined to go into relationships where it's surface level in the beginning, um, for a long period of time. For me myself, I do prefer SE1, but one of the issues that comes with SE1 when you don't have any past parallels, right, with someone is that you come across the issue of you never get the chance for someone to feel like they relate to you, right? So someone who has SE1 is seen more as like relatable, but relatable through the sense of, um, your past parallels. I'm gonna write that as double P. And then with SE2, you become relatable through perhaps interests, but mainly through your interactions with the other person. So how you become relatable is only determined by time, right? And for me, myself, like I'm in university right now, and the amount of time you have is typically limited to like about like 4 years. Whereas when you have past parallels, you don't necessarily have any time limit per se, but this is like a maybe. And I'll get to that right now actually. So when it comes to past parallels, the reason why I put a little star on the infinity sign is just because like you are expected to have certain experiences by a certain time. Whether or not you would prefer that to happen, these are certain cases where the people around you will look at you funny if you don't have certain experiences. Like for example, something that's very easy to digest would be at certain ages there's a certain level of maturity that you're expected to have, right? So, and let's say these would be years where you are taking a new leap into something new. For example, when you hit 17/18, you're done with high school, right? And then when you hit 18 to 22, you have university. And and then after 22 forward, a lot of your
shared experiences
are going to be through past parallels. From what I've seen a lot of people older than me kind of relate to each other, whether it would be through hobbies, right? So hobbies and interests. These are typically what I've seen. There's also the case of life experiences, but from what I've seen, not everyone's comfortable with sharing. Some people are, but it's only the case where you yourself take the chance to become vulnerable with them first. Now, considering like after every milestone, if you don't have a certain maturity level from here to here to here, people look at you very, very weird, right? And the thing is that like this maturity level is kind of determined by how you grew up in terms of the people that you surrounded yourself with, right? And let's say like you had no friends, or you didn't really have like a strong friendship with people. From what I've seen, most people they will have friends from elementary school, middle school, high school, right? And it's through those friendships where they have a sense of belonging. And then when you come to uni, you have a lot of like friendships that are fleeting friendships, right? No one there is really there permanently. You have just that nice, good, fleeting friendship, and then after that, you're gone, right? But what happens if you don't have those long-term friendships, but you have just a bunch of short-term friendships, right? And that leads us to missing past parallels. Now, I said earlier that if you're the type of person where you really do enjoy a lot more introspective conversations, you enjoy conversations that maybe more substantial, and you're not really that type of person that you would really bother for surface level friendships, then you would tend to gravitate towards SC1. But one of the issues is that if your past parallels aren't there or they aren't shared with the other person, then you're more than likely unable to be relatable to the other person. I'm not saying that you couldn't be vulnerable. I don't mean that you couldn't talk about your situation with them per se, but if you don't have any past parallel, you don't really immediately dive into that conversation of, oh, yada yada yada, right? You could, but from what I've seen, not a lot of people are that introspective either. And it's through those past parallels that people become more introspective and a lot more telling of how they see the world or how they've come to see the world. But yeah, that's kind of all I have for now. Like, I haven't really thought a lot of it through, but I have applied a couple of like these ideas to my current friendships with people, or friendships where I have slowly exited out from. And this will lead to me talking about the idea of bonding with someone later on. But yeah, thanks for watching. If you have any further ideas of this, like, please leave a comment, like and subscribe, share this with your friends, yada yada. Alright, thank you.